Hey everyone. Hi Aries. Okay, so before we begin, I just want to say happy August. Anyone new to Opal Oracle, welcome. Anyone returning, hi. Okay, so August. I think as of today, yesterday was the new moon. As of today, I'm pretty sure there's something like 8 planets in retrograde. So, if things are seeming slow or not, I feel like everyone sort of wants to push forward, but it's not quite the time to do that. So, just remember to take it easy. Have patience, right? All things in good time, right? Right. What's in the bottom there? Yes, all things in good time. So, Aries. Let's pray for a second. Feel free to take a few deep breaths and you can think about what it is that you want to know a little bit more about. Also, before this continues, I've been suggesting to everyone where it's wise to take note of what it is that you're learning by literally taking notes. You'll learn a lot that way, and then you can kind of reference back. Like if you keep it in the same notebook too, like, because I'm assuming most of you watch different readers and whatever it is, and it doesn't matter separating those. It's just kind of like, what is it that I'm learning? What is it that I need to pay attention to? Are there certain dates or moon cycles or astrological aspects to be aware of? This will also help you realize like who your teachers are and and how far you're progressing along whatever the lessons of tarot is, okay? Lots of yellow thus far. It's Leo's color. Awesome cards, Aries. Oh, wow. Good. Just a second. I see that, just a second, please. Well, you're learning about what satisfies you, like what feels good, And in that, it shows me that I see that someone, and this is obviously an aspect of you, like one of your archetypes, if you will, but of course this can be, I sense this as a different person also, where they're kind of like helping you, and this could be like a mentor too. Queen of Swords is very logical, but there's some sort of information to be like, hey, this is kind of where you're stuck, or I also heard that she's asking, what are you still afraid of? Yeah, what are you still afraid of is a big question. Because you are safe, you are loved, and you are protected, okay? I see the Wheel of Fortune is directly in the center, okay? That's really beautiful and really positive. Now, although this is a very, again, beautiful and positive card, it does represent it's the Wheel of Fortune can be very sudden, okay? So maybe there's something that like a certain way that you want to go and a certain way that you want to do it. I see for some of you, it's like you're learning to take the skills that you have, like your God-given talents, which, by the way, here's a little note that I just learned about a few months back. In the Bible specifically, talents was used to be measured in silver. So when they said, you have God-given talents, what they mean is everyone, when they're born, they receive a certain amount of silver. And then you are able to take that, and it's interesting, my nails, right? And then you are able to take that silver and you do what you will with it. Now, some people squander away their talents, right? They're just like, whatever it is. Maybe they become an alcoholic, they forget, whatever it was. I mean, that just came to me, but it can be any way, just not even believing that you have special talents. So we've talked about this before, like, what are your magical abilities, right? You must know what your natural talents are that God gave you for you to have the universe start giving you what it is that really emotionally fulfills you, right? And I see that with this in the center, and the other cards that are here, you're starting to really figure out, well, I heard who it is that you are and what it is that you want, and also, again, the way that you want it to be. Now, I see that the 2 fire here, which are your elements, are the 9 and the 2, and they're right next to one another. So I see that any sort of like conflictual energy, Mars is in retrograde too, which is your heavenly body, which can affect you, okay? Whenever your own natural sign goes into retrograde, it's a lesson that you need to learn. And again, I see with this 9, it's kind of like this queen again is like, what do you, she's just like, why are you blocking your own success? Why don't you just turn around and realize that you can get rid of 7 of these if you want to. And or she's saying, I also see here that there's some sort of conversation needs to be had about the way that you want to move forward within your relationships. I see for a lot of you, it's work oriented. And for others of you, it's specifically relationally, romantically involved, okay? But either way, because we have a relationship with everything, right? A relationship with work, a relationship with our lover, a relationship with our children, whatever that is. And then, of course, relationship with ourselves, right? So there's something about that in figuring out where you're still stuck. Like what I heard, what are you afraid of? Because I really sense here that you have nothing to fear. Okay? It's something really strong about God-given talents. Okay? There's an importance because you're learning something right now too. Okay? You're learning about, well, how sensitive you are, and a little bit about perfection, in ways of what it means when you start building something, because you're cardinal, right? And so, although you're Aries in the first decan of fire and the first sign of the zodiac wheel, it generally represents you being a really open person, right? Like you're open for new adventure, right? Like if someone was just like, hey, you want to go snowboarding tomorrow? I'd be like, yeah, sure. I've never been, but I'll go, or, have you read this book? No, but I'd love to borrow it. Like I feel like, and if there's something that your mind is like, oh yeah, I want to learn about that. I see that you you really will get into it and you become impassioned by that, and that's really beautiful. But in that process of learning, I want you to know that sometimes it's like there's 3 steps to go. Somebody else got this too. Let me try to remember who it was. Scorpio. So of course, for some of you, that's your 8th house, and for others of you, it's just you. Scorpio represents many things, but I sense because I do see this sort of business and relation, okay? And then I heard, what's your business and what isn't? And I sense that as you needing to ask yourself, and then you sort of asking other people, like, or sort of stating like, hey, that's not your business. Like what, meaning like what I do is my business, you know? And then I heard that old song, like, if you be minding your own business, then you won't be minding mine. You know that one? It's like an old blues song. I didn't sing it right. I have a hard time remembering. My sister's the musician. I'm the painter, although she's a great doodler. Sorry, she's an Aries and I miss her. So I guess just saying that, like, family, like siblings are important too, I see with this page. Like if you have siblings, and those of you who don't, it's kind of like, well, it could obviously be your children, or just like, maybe it's sort of your inner child that's like playing into your adult life, and you're like, I gotta go to work, and your inner child's like, I want to go have fun. You know, and so you gotta kind of keep it in check and be like, hey, I gotta do this to get this done, so that we have I heard a place to live. Like, you know, I guess there's something about the adult talking to the child and being like, hey, we have to, if we get X, Y, and Z done, then we can go to the park, right? And it's sort of having a correct balance of sorts to that aspect, okay? I see for those of you in a relationship, your relationships really got a lot of power right now. There's a lot of emotion within it, but again, I see something about a new direction, okay? And there's consideration to like sort of what the pros and cons are of something. And I heard where you want to be. 3 years, 6 years, 9 years from now, 10 years from now. Where do you want to be 10 years from now? Where do you want to be in October? And I see something about the wheel also turning in a few, like August, September, October, August, September, October. Yeah, 3 months ish. There's something about that. The wheel will turn. So I see between now and October, it's important for you to focus in on your own vulnerability, okay? And knowing that you are safe, you are loved, you are protected, understanding your God-given talents, okay? How to utilize them in the physical world. Because the thing is, when it comes to emotional satisfaction in relation to your skill set, it's like, well, I heard, how do you enhance that? I also see here, there's something that you have to learn about taking something away to gain something. I see it's not within the 3-dimensional world. It's an internal thing that you have to remove. Okay, and it has to do, I think you're the 10th sign that I'm recording, so Saturn is in your 10th house, okay? So that's about your career, it's about your face in the world, it's about, well, many things, right? Saturn is also in retrograde, so sometimes there's a little bit of fear with that about like, and with Mercury retrograde also, I feel like there's a lot of, again, consideration to like, how do I move forward? I see that your mind is like, I want to move forward right now, but energetically you're not allowed to yet. But I see within, I actually see for some of you in the next, I did hear the next few days. This isn't for all of you, but something will shift. Or you'll have a really good idea about which way it is that you want to go, but you also know there's something about timing. Okay, it's like divine timing. So in that, it's like understanding that all these retrogrades are happening because we all, as a collective, need to slow down a little bit, right? We need to take a minute to be like, and kind of reassess everything. It's sort of like if you took your whole life and what it is that's going on and like laid it out on a table, and then you kind of organize it. And you're like, okay, I have this and this and this goes with that. And, you know, it's kind of a sort of organizational positioning where you're like, you know, what fits together. And you know how when everything's laid out on a table, you can always tell when something's a little bit off. So maybe there's something about that, like, and then I heard putting your emotions on the line. Interesting. I see that there's something that has more to do with October. Because I feel like you're kind of riding a wave right now. Like, you know when you're in the ocean and like a wave's coming, but you're like prepared for it. You've been looking out to the horizon, right? And you're like, okay, this is so vast. And like when you feel like, I feel like for the majority of you, you've been in the ocean like this before, and you sort of are like, you know, you just have that feeling that you know that you're really small, but then you also understand that you're an intricate part of everything. But there's something about with the ocean, it's like you have to respect it so much, right? Because it's bigger than us, and we can never control the ocean. But we can control our own, like we can be more in control about the way that we feel about that situation, right? I also sense for any of you that had any sort of like water trauma, I heard it would be really good for you to go back to that memory if you feel comfortable, okay? And kind of relive it in a way, but where you're viewing the situation versus being in your own body, you're kind of like looking at it. And then when it starts to become like to a position of being scary, you just change the situation, change the memory about it. Because that's not delusional, it actually is helping you, because I sense that there's something about you know, because right now we're in Leo season, and so therefore, from what I can gather anyway, whatever sign's birth month it is, astrologically speaking, where the sun is, it affects the collective as a whole. Now, last month, Leo had a video called, because of course we're reflective of each other, right? All of us. And we absorb that energy, and that's why it's not about like this sign or that sign. It's about working on ourselves individually to help the collective as a whole, right? So Leo last month had the soul journey of the pearl diver. which is really cool, actually. I love that that came out, right? It seems poetic and really wonderful, and it's, I think that all people should watch that video because there's something to learn in there. But this month they had the opening of the floodgates, okay? And they actually had a rune about diving, okay? So there's something, obviously, since they rule the heart, there's something about a really deepness within this emotional positioning that we are within our own hearts as a humanity, okay, as a whole. And so coming out of Cancer season, you know, it's water, it's the moon, and then we go into the sun, right? It's the yin yang. It's sort of an extreme difference, right? Night to day. So something to just be aware of, that's kind of like, I guess I heard that the tides can change at any time. So it's really important to be prepared for them. Oh, like I was saying about riding the wave. So I sense that right now, like, this character it's facing the shore instead of facing the horizon, okay? And usually when we're at a beach, it's just like there's sand, you know, there's water and then there's sand. It goes from one earth to water, and there's like a, you know, it blends together, but there's still very much a separation. When you're in the water and you're facing it, then you can be prepared if a wave comes. Because sometimes those waves are really big, like, and you can like tell when it's coming, and then you're like, oh, okay, I know I gotta swim towards this a little bit, or I can start going towards, like, I can see it in my periphery, but I know that if I move ahead 3 steps, that when this wave comes, I'll be able to ride it, and then from all this water, I'll land on soil, right? I'll land on the earth, and I'll be solid, and I'll be safe, and it'll be really fun, okay? Now, if you're not looking at the horizon, at this wider expanse, right? It's what this Two of Wands is all about. It's like having a really wide expanse to what the possibilities are, looking out into the horizon, okay? Like this, right? Just looking out. It's like infinite, right? I did just hear water therapy. Not sure what that means, besides maybe, to me, I'm picturing just like being in the water. Of course, if there's some sort of like literal natural water source, that would be good. If you don't live in a place like that, well, I think most places have that somehow, some way. But if not, of course, like soaking your feet or taking a shower. Like, as an example, when I do a lot of tarot readings, like particularly personal ones, sometimes in between I have to actually like take a bath or take a shower and like rinse off that energy, rinse off that emotion, those emotions, because they're not mine, but they're kind of stuck to me, right? Also, darker colors tend to absorb energy. Like in Hindu, I think it's Hindu religion, when they go to a funeral, they wear white, okay, because they don't want to absorb, because black absorbs energy and white reflects it, right? Or deflects it. So something about that too, in ways of, I heard what you've lost or what you've separated from. So you can kind of tell like how you're feeling by what you're wearing also. A good exercise too, if you want, is if you have like a daily planner or like a little notebook that you write down, each day and what you need to do, it'd be good for you to write down what you wear, like color-wise, Is it, I guess you could detail whether it's like patterns or not, because that makes a big difference too. If you're wearing like a solid color, if you're wearing like, Is it bright? Is it sort of a flat color? You know, and you can tell, like, okay, I wore blue these 3 days, then I wore green, then I wore yellow, like, for 4 days straight. It was really weird. You know, there's something about that that'll help you to understand different chakras and what it is that you're working on or working through. I see that a heart chakra meditation would be really helpful for you. Because God is asking you to open your heart to where it is that you're at, because you're receiving, like, because for some of you, you kind of feel like you're on the bottom of the wheel. Like, you kind of feel like, is this where I'm supposed to be? But there's something about being okay with where you're at, because it's giving you an opportunity to be able to choose something new. Okay? To make your life, the world, the three-dimensional world that you live in, and the way that you respond within that, your actions within that world are going to shift. I did just hear the word counselor with this also. Now, as a side note, I was talking with a friend of mine who is also a tarot reader. Mark, he's really cool. He's an interesting guy. But he was saying with Chiron and Aries, he kind of had this download, and I hope it's okay that I'm sharing this because I found it quite profound, where Chiron and Aries is kind of like, because I think a lot of people are figuring out that everyone is a healer in their own way, whether you're just healing yourself or whether you work with others, or with Mother Nature, you know, whatever it is that you are helping to extend this kind of like love and admiration for where it is that you're at, right? Who it is that you're around, etc. So with Chiron and Aries, it's kind of like he was saying that what came to him is that the healers need healers too. Okay, which is basically just saying, like, people need people. You know, even if you say you're like the manager of a business, right? As an example, you're the boss. You work for yourself, or you're just like in charge of certain things. You've made it to this other like hierarchy level. Well, that doesn't mean that you don't need someone to help you, right? That's usually why like a boss has a secretary, or, you know, whatever it may be. There's some sort of level of support as we go down the ladder, so that there's no rungs that are being skipped, right? It's like a solid stepping. We just keep going and going. I also see something about someone like moving. It goes back to the number 3. I also see that it's good for you to like be around other people. And again, like sharing your God-given talents with folks. Okay, I mean, obviously this 3 of Pentacles is really about working, well, it's about self-mastery, but it's also about like just working on whatever you're working on and working at it diligently, and not being concerned about time, and just knowing that time, it's divine timing, right? And when something is supposed to happen where other folks are around, then other folks will be around. Until then, keep loving you, okay? I see that it's really important. The more work that you are putting into, like, you putting in the little tiny details of things is actually working out. It's keeping your mind really sharp too. And it's important for, especially as we grow older, it's really important to, like, the man, I forget, I think his last name was actually Stradivarian, but the man who invented the Stradivarian, or is it Stradivarius? Excuse me if I sometimes I don't remember everything. And who knows if it's real or told anyway. But whoever invented that violin lived to be like 98 years old. You know, at a time when a lot of people died when they were like, so they say, 40. You know, so there's something about keeping the mind very active. Well, it's just good for emotional health, right? It's good for your body. It's good for your mind. It's good for your soul. I also see that it's really good for your relationships too. Like, I mean, you're a pretty independent person of, like, outside of your relationships, you know, whether that would be work or relation. But I also see that you kind of, like, sometimes you can combine that. So I guess that's kind of where, like, if you're going to have a boundary, then you got to know, well, you have to communicate what those boundaries are prior to beginning something. And of course, like, even if you're already within something, it's like, it goes back to the James P. Carse book, The Finite and Infinite Games. It's like an infinite game can forever be playing, right? But the reason why it can continue to play infinitely is because the rules are always changing, and the players that are involved in it, right? They're like, okay, well, these are the rules now. Do you want to play? And everyone says, yes, I do. Then a certain amount of time passes, right? And then maybe someone learns something new, and they're like, oh, actually, I'm making a new rule, okay? Because that makes me, that's what I heard, that's what I want. And of course, this can be, as you already know, but I feel the need to tell the folks maybe that are new, is like, those rules can just be the rules that you are making with yourself about how you function with everything else in your life. You know, maybe you're making a rule with your inner child, like, hey, again, we have to do X, Y, and Z before we do B. You know, we have to go, I heard we have to go in order. We have to go in order. Just a second. There's 4 cards with mountains. 5, she's on a mountain. Okay? But there's 4 cards with mountains. So you're the number 4. That's about stability, right? It's the Emperor. It also rules Cancer, which is about the home. Of course, this can be your physical home, but it's also your physical home as your body. So there's something about a stabilization within who it is that you are. And an elevation within that. Like understanding, you're coming to a higher perspective, right? Because this one with the mountain, he's actually way up here, right? Up in this castle, so that has a really good vantage point. Okay, I see that it's really important. This also has a wide vantage point, right? It takes time to get all the way up here. It takes time to get all the way up here. It takes time to get all the way up here. And I can understand now that you've made it all the way up here that you're like, I don't want anything to take this away from me. Now I see that you really, with this and this, considering what it is that you're learning about, the Wheel of Fortune and the page, you don't have, there's no need for you to worry about anyone taking anything away from you, because there is like an undercurrent of that also. You're like, I want to make sure that I have everything I heard that I need. But the thing is God always gives you what you need, okay? You may not always get what you want the way that you want it, but you still get what you need. And in truth, you even get what you want, just not the way you wanted it, you know? I want to see about, okay, the wall. I saw this card earlier. I think it's a Sagittarian card. Seems like it to me. And the Sagittarius card just came out. So they're about the higher mind. Okay, so it's kind of like, don't let your lower mind be in charge of what it is that you were able to do, okay? Like, the lower mind is the ego that's kind of like, it either says to you, you need to be perfect or this will never work. Which I know a lot of Aries are just like, what the fuck ever. I ain't worried about being perfect. I'll do whatever I want. But it doesn't mean that you're not insecure at times. It's just whether you express it or not. But the thing is like, again, the ego can tell us to be perfect, or ego can tell us like, you're a dummy, right? Like, you can't do that, or you don't deserve that, or whatever. But I sense in a way that whatever this energetic kind of blockage is, I think that it's not, I really didn't sense this fire energy as yours, okay? Because sometimes it's just things that we held on to since we were a kid. Maybe we got it from our parents, right? I mean, not to, I'm not going to do, I realize that my tarot readings are actually child-like regression therapy. I didn't really realize. I mean, I get the point of it, and it's actually where the root of the problem is, and then we can get it on out of there, right? Jupiter and Scorpio. I also see that there's something about that, like Jupiter is in Scorpio, right, till late November. Then Jupiter will go into Sagittarius. I see that you're kind of a little bit concerned about December for some reason, and this seems to be coming up for a lot of people. I don't know what's happening. I haven't been able to look that far astrologically speaking, but it's kind of like, you don't be worried about making the right, or don't be worried about whether you're going to be able to make the right decision or what all the decisions are. I just see that right now you need to keep your mind clear about, again, the question is, what am I still afraid of? And is any of that fear and that kind of energy that I'm holding in my body, is it even mine? I also heard, again, water therapy, and then I heard, like, I saw someone in the water, like, kind of like a little bit frantic. But the thing is, because I can see them, that means that they're not alone, okay? And so again, yeah, I see that you're not alone. I just split the deck, okay? You're not alone. Plus, remember, we just came out of Cancer season, okay? That Cancer season was kind of heavy, It's all about the mom. It's about early upbringing. It's about later in life, Again, a lot of you probably thought about your childhood or about your mother, or just a lot of stuff came up, and then maybe thinking about, like, how do I retire? Like, do I have enough money to retire? Like, I don't want to be broke when I'm old. I don't want to be stuck in my money or worrying about my money. I want to have enough to do what it is that I want to do. I see that the mind is the one thing that blocks it from wanting to expedite something now. It's like, and that's the ego, right? It's like, and Leo rules the ego, okay? It's Leo season. It's kind of like when your mind is trying to rush you into being like, I need all the answers right now. I just need to know. It's like, you can just tell your mind, and maybe this is where you make those boundaries, right? You're kind of like, hey, easy, easy. Take it easy. Okay? It's divine timing. Okay? It's divine timing. Again, I see for any of you moving, divine timing, okay? Anything having to do with your home or with your relationships or just like changes within that. I mean, 98% of your cards were positive. I mean, they're all good. They're always, there's no bad in tarot. It's just like sometimes a little tougher, sometimes a little easier. I see that if you look at it, the only thing blocking you was that wall and whatever it is that you're afraid of. But, you know, as a last note, Jupiter's in Scorpio, okay? It's been in Jupiter in Scorpio for 9 months. So now, what happens after 9 months? Well, you have a baby. And then, you get a brand new start in this life, right? But we still have 4 more months to figure out where it is that we are and to drop any baggage that we're still holding on to, okay? Getting really clear in our mind and really fixing our emotions. Anything that's yucky, right? Anything that's heavy, anything that's blocking us. Just gaining a whole new perspective about it, okay? Knowing that you are safe, you are loved, and you are protected. Okay? You are safe and you are loved and you're protected. You must keep patience. Okay? You must keep patience. Dovere. Deve. You must. Yeah, you'll be just fine. Okay? All right, I love you so much. I'll talk to you later, Gator. Peace out.